was down in Bastrop. I was with a SISM team, and we were going around to visit different people that had just been allowed to come back and see their house for the very first time. And we were there for, I guess, probably 4 hours or so, and it was like walking through this really bad black and white movie. There was just this void of color everywhere. All you saw were things that were black or white or some variation or some shade of gray. And I asked this lady how she first heard about the fire or saw the fire, and she launched into this story that was just an amazing story. And she said she was in her kitchen and she heard this crackling sound and didn't quite know what that was, and so she went to the back door. There was this cedar tree that was on the far back side of her property that literally just exploded in flames. And then she looked down and she saw the grass was on fire, and she realized that this was a pretty substantial fire, and she just assumed that it was heading towards the house. So she ran back into the house, yelled to her husband, and literally in the next 2 to 3 minutes, evidently they pulled together key belongings, grabbed their 2 pets, and dashed out the front door. He jumped in the RV and pulled out. She jumped into the truck and backed out. And as she's backing out, she looks over to her neighbor's house, which is to the right, and there were 2 cars that were in the driveway. And she realized that there are 2 neighbors that live in that house, and there's 2 cars in the driveway, and so they were probably still inside their house. And the Holy Spirit tapped her on the shoulder, and she slammed the truck into park, and she jumped out and she ran over to her neighbor's house, and she started beating on the door and started screaming, and there was no answer. And she kept doing this for what seemed like an eternity, and she looked around the corner and she looked at her house, and she could now see that the flames had come up and they were now lapping on the back side of her house. They were that close to where she was, and she continued to, she then turned and she looked back to her husband, and he was in the RV and he was honking the horn and waving to her to come on. And instead she reached down and she picked up these rocks and she started throwing stones at the upstairs window. And it wasn't long before a sleepy head showed its face at the window upstairs. And because she cared enough about her neighbor, she saved their lives.